The morning sun shined brightly over Millbrook as Mateo Torres's black car drove into the small town. He was 36 years old and had everything: expensive suits, fancy cars, and a big apartment in New York City. But as he drove past the familiar streets of his hometown, something felt different. Another small town ready for change, he said to himself, adjusting his sunglasses. As the boss of a big company that built fancy stores and apartments, he had changed many old neighborhoods. Millbrook was just another place to rebuild. At least, that's what he kept telling himself. Mateo parked near Sunset Park, the center of the neighborhood his company wanted to change. The park still looked the same benches, same trees, same walking paths. But now there were food stands where people sold snacks. "Fresh grilled skewers, come get some," a woman's voice called out. Her laughter followed, and Mateo froze. That laugh, he knew that laugh. Then he saw her. Working at a small food stand under a blue awning was Bella Carter, his high school sweetheart. She was the girl he once promised to love forever before his family moved away. She looked different now. Her dark hair had some gray, and she had small lines around her eyes. But her smile was still the same. $5 for 2 skewers. Best deal in the park," Bella called out. Mateo watched her cook and talk to customers. She seemed happy, but he noticed her hands looked rough from work, and she looked tired. This was not the future he had imagined for her. Back in high school, Bella was an amazing artist who had won many competitions. She had dreamed of going to art school in New York. Taking a deep breath, Mateo walked to the stand. Bella was busy with a customer, so he had time to look at her closely. "Next customer, please," she called, without looking up. "I'll take 2 chicken skewers," Mateo said, trying to keep his voice steady. Bella froze. Slowly, she looked up. Her eyes widened. "Danny?" she whispered, using the nickname she had given him long ago. "Hi, Bella," he said. The customer behind Mateo cleared his throat, looking impatient. "Oh, I'm sorry." Bella quickly turned back to work, her hands shaking a little as she cooked. "I'll be with you in a minute, Danny." Mateo stepped aside and watched her. When the last customer left, she wiped her hands on her apron and looked at him again. "I can't believe it's you," she said. "What brings you back to Millbrook?" "Business," he answered, but he immediately felt bad for sounding so cold. "I mean, I wanted to see the old neighborhood too." Bella glanced at his fancy suit. "You've done well for yourself," she said. "I see your picture in business magazines at the grocery store. You're a big-shot real estate developer now." Her voice had no anger, just something else, maybe sadness. Mateo looked at her stand. "And you're—" He didn't know how to finish the sentence. "Running the best skewer stand in Sunset Park," she said proudly. 6 years now. It's not fancy, but it pays the bills." Mateo hesitated. "The bills must be important." Bella's smile faded. "They are when you're raising 2 teenage siblings." She looked down. "Mom and Dad passed away 5 years ago. A car accident. Marco and Camila needed someone to take care of them." Mateo felt like he had been punched. While he was building his business, Bella had stayed here, taking care of her family. "I'm so sorry," he said softly. "I had no idea." "How could you?" she replied gently. "You left, Danny. Life goes on." A group of customers walked up. Bella straightened. "Duty calls. It was good seeing you, Danny." "Wait," Mateo said. "What time do you close? Maybe we could talk more." Bella hesitated. "I close at 6, but I have to make dinner for Marco and Camila." "Let me help you clean up," Mateo offered, "for old time's sake." After a long moment, Bella nodded. "Okay, for old time's sake." That night, Mateo couldn't stop thinking about Bella. His phone buzzed with messages from his work team about the new project, but every message made him feel worse. Finally, he sent a message. "Put everything on hold. I need more time." The next morning, Mateo woke up early. Instead of wearing his usual fancy clothes, he put on jeans and a simple shirt. At exactly 10, he arrived at the park again. Bella was setting up her stand, struggling with a heavy pole. "Need help?" Mateo asked. Bella jumped. "Danny." I didn't think you'd come back. I said I would, he replied, taking the pole. Let me help. Together, they set up the stand in half the usual time. Bella was wearing a pretty blue blouse today, but she quickly covered it with an apron. You didn't have to dress up for me, Matteo teased. Bella blushed. I didn't. My sister picked it out. She was excited you might come back. Tell me about them, Matteo said. Your brother and sister. Bella's face lit up. Marco is 18 and starting college. He's really smart. Camila is 16, and she loves art like I used to. They're good kids. Life hasn't been easy, but they're worth it. And you? Do you do anything for yourself? Bella laughed, but it sounded a little sad. Taking care of them is my life now. Before Matteo could respond, a teenage girl ran up. Nessa! Is this him? The girl asked, grinning at Matteo. Bella sighed. Camila, shouldn't you be in school? Lunch break. I had to see if it was true. She turned to Matteo. So you're Danny, the one from all Bella's old pictures? Camila. Bella turned red. Matteo smiled. She kept pictures of me. A whole box in the attic, Camila said. She looks at them when she thinks we're asleep. Go back to school, Bella groaned. Camila laughed. Fine, but you should come to dinner tonight. Marco wants to meet you too. After she left, Bella sighed. She's impossible. She seems great, Matteo said. And she's right. Can I come to dinner? Bella hesitated. It won't be fancy, just meatloaf and potatoes. I'd love to come, Matteo said quickly. 7 o'clock then. Let me help you clean up again. You don't have to keep helping. First, I want to. The rest of the day passed quickly, but Matteo couldn't stop smiling. Matteo was getting to know more people who came to buy food every day. He also learned how to cook on the grill and even took care of the money when Bella took a small break. Every time their hands touched by accident, Matteo felt young again. At 6 o'clock, they packed everything up together. This time, Matteo told Bella that he would drive her home right away so she would have more time to cook dinner. It doesn't have to be perfect, he told her when he saw she was nervous. Easy for you to say, Bella said. You probably eat at fancy restaurants every night. I can't even remember the last time I had a home-cooked meal. When they got to her house, Bella stopped before getting out of the car. Danny, why are you really here in Millbrook? She asked. Matteo felt a twist in his stomach. He felt guilty. I told you, business. What kind of business? Can we talk about it later, after dinner? Bella looked at him for a moment, thinking. Then she nodded. Okay, but promise me you'll be honest. I promise. At 7 o'clock sharp, Matteo went back to Bella's house. This time, he really looked at it. The old carpet on the front steps, the curtains that didn't match, and the way one window shutter hung a little crooked. But there were also signs of love everywhere. The mailbox was freshly painted, flowers were carefully taken care of, wind chimes made soft sounds in the breeze. Marco opened the door. He was 18 and tall. His face looked serious, just like their father's. Mr. Kensington, he said, sounding very formal. Please call me Matteo, or Danny. Camila appeared behind her brother. Don't mind Marco, he's just being protective. Come in. Nessa has been cooking all afternoon. Inside, the house was small but very clean. Family pictures were everywhere. Most were of Marco and Camila growing up, with Bella always in the background, watching over them. The furniture was old but had colorful blankets covering the worn-out parts. Bella walked out of the kitchen wearing an apron over a simple dress. Her hair was down and she had put on a little makeup. She looked beautiful. I hope you're hungry, she said. I might have made too much food. The dining table was full of delicious food. There was meatloaf, potatoes, green beans, fresh rolls, and even an apple pie for dessert. Nessa cooks a lot when she's nervous, Camila explained. She's been nervous all day. Nessa! Bella and Marco said at the same time. Matteo laughed. Well, it all looks amazing. During dinner, Matteo learned more about their lives. Marco worked at the library while studying. Camila wrote for the school paper and helped at the food stand on weekends. They were very close. They finished each other's sentences and had inside jokes. Tell us about New York. Camila asked excitedly. Is it as fun as it looks on TV? Some parts of it, Mateo said. But honestly, sitting here with all of you feels nicer. He looked across the table at Bella. She was watching him with soft eyes, just like she used to in high school. After dinner, Marco and Camila cleaned up. That left Mateo and Bella alone on the front porch. The air was warm and fireflies were glowing in the night. Thank you for dinner, Mateo said. It was wonderful. Thank you for coming, Bella replied. The kids really like you. Even Marco, though he tries to act tough. And what about you? Bella turned to him. Danny, you never answered my question. What kind of business brought you back to Millbrook? Mateo took a deep breath. He had to tell her the truth. But before he could, Bella's phone rang. It's Mrs. Jenkins, she said. She watches Marco and Camila sometimes. I should take this. While she talked on the phone, Mateo looked around. Kids were playing basketball. A couple walked their dog past the house and waved hello. This wasn't just some place to build stores. This was a real neighborhood. Bella's home. Sorry about that, Bella said, coming back. Now, what were you going to tell me? Mateo looked at her. The light on the porch made her look softer. There was a little flower on her sleeve from baking. He saw trust in her eyes. I was going to say... He hesitated, then changed his mind. I was going to say thank you for letting me be part of your world again. Bella smiled and touched his hand. You're different than I expected. When I first saw you yesterday, I thought you'd be a stuck-up businessman. But you're still Danny. Under all those fancy clothes, you're still the boy I used to know. Mateo felt guilty. He had to tell her about the shopping mall plan. But not tonight. Tonight, he just wanted to sit with her and watch the fireflies. Inside the house, Camila played the piano. Marco sang along. Bella laughed. They're showing off for you, she said. I don't mind. Mateo said, this is the most peaceful I've felt in years. They sat quietly until Marco called out that it was getting late. Ever the responsible one, Bella said. He had to grow up fast. You all did, Mateo said softly. At the bottom of the porch steps, Bella stopped him. Will I see you tomorrow? Try and keep me away. She reached up and straightened his collar, just like she did in high school. Good night, Danny. Good night, Nessa. Mateo drove back to his hotel. His phone buzzed with messages from his business team, but he ignored them. For the first time, something mattered more than work, but he didn't know how to keep it without ruining everything Bella had built. The next morning, Mateo saw a group of angry shop owners by Bella's stand. They had heard about the mall plan. Is it true? Mrs. Wong, the flower shop owner, asked. Bella looked at Mateo, her face pale. Danny, tell me this isn't true. Mateo's heart sank. This wasn't how he wanted her to find out. Bella, I can explain. You lied to us, she whispered, her voice shaking. Mateo reached for her hand, but she pulled away. Marco stepped in front of her. Stay away from my sister. Mateo backed away. He never meant to hurt anyone, but he had. Back at his hotel, his phone wouldn't stop ringing, but all he could think about was Bella's hurt face. He opened his laptop and looked at the shopping mall plans. Fancy stores, expensive apartments, no place for a simple food stand. This isn't right, he muttered. His assistant called. The board wants you in New York tomorrow. Cancel it, sir. Cancel everything. That night, Mateo wrote an email. I am removing my company from the Millbrook project. I am also stepping down as CEO. His finger hovered over the send button. His job, his company, his reputation, all on the line. But then he thought of Bella's smile, of family dinners, of laughter. He pressed send. Now, he could only hope it wasn't too late to fix what really mattered. As the thunder rumbled in the sky, Mateo walked to Bella's house one more time. The lights were on, but no one answered the door. He sighed and took out a note. I'm sorry, not just for lying, but for thinking money was more important than what really matters. I've stopped the new buildings. The park, the shops, your food stand, they are all safe. I know this won't fix everything, but I hope it's a start. I'm not leaving this time. When you're ready to talk, I'll be here. Denny. Matteo tucked the note under a flower pot and walked away in the rain. He knew now that some things were worth more than all the money in the world. Inside the house, Bella stood by the window. She saw him leave and picked up the note with shaking hands. A single tear rolled down her cheek as she read his words again and again. The next morning, Matteo heard a loud thud as the newspaper hit his hotel room door. He picked it up and his heart sank. Millionaire CEO resigns after failed deal. His phone had been ringing all night. His business partners, his workers, even his mom, they all wanted answers. His younger brother Andres was furious. Are you throwing away a billion-dollar company for some food stand girl? Andres shouted over the phone. Her name is Bella, Matteo said firmly. And it's not just about her. It's about doing what's right. Right for who? The people who trusted you? The workers who need their jobs? Matteo didn't answer. He hung up and looked out the window. He could see the park in the distance. Bella's stand was still closed. The blue awning was missing. He had saved the park, but at what cost? He had lost his company, and Bella still didn't trust him. Across town, Bella sat at her kitchen table staring at a pile of unpaid bills. Without her stand, money was tight. We could sell some of Mom's jewelry, her little sister Camila suggested. No, Bella said firmly. Those are for your wedding day. Her younger brother Marco walked in from school. I can drop out and get a full-time job. Absolutely not. Bella shook her head. No one is selling anything. No one is dropping out. I'll figure something out. She glanced at Matteo's note sitting on the counter. The paper was wrinkled from how many times she had read it. He really did it? Marco said, holding up the newspaper. He gave up everything to save the park. He lied to us before, Bella reminded him. Yeah, but he also fixed it, Camila said. That has to count for something, right? Before Bella could answer, there was a knock at the door. It was Mrs. Wong from the flower shop. Have you seen the news? She asked, holding up her phone. That rich boy didn't just stop the new buildings. He's giving his own money to help small businesses. Bella took the phone and read the article. Matteo had promised to give half of his fortune to help the neighborhood. He wasn't asking for anything in return. Why would he do that? Bella whispered. Mrs. Wong smiled. Love makes people do crazy things. Later that morning, Bella walked to the park. Her customers had been calling, asking when she would reopen. Rent was due soon, and she needed the money. But when she reached her stand, she stopped in surprise. Everything was set up just like before. The blue awning was clean, the grill was ready, and standing nearby was Matteo, looking nervous in jeans and a t-shirt. Before you say anything, he said quickly, I'm not trying to buy your forgiveness. I know you need to work, and I know how to set up the stand now. Bella stepped closer. You gave up your company. It wasn't worth what it cost, Matteo said. The money is for the neighborhood. I won't control any of it. Bella touched the grill. It was clean, ready for cooking. Why? Because I love you, Matteo said. I love your kindness, your strength, the way you always help others. I love how you hum when you cook, how you give extra food to hungry kids. I love you, Bella. Tears filled Bella's eyes. Danny, I know I messed up. I know I have to earn back your trust, but I'm not going anywhere. Even if you never forgive me, I'll still be here. A small crowd had gathered. Mrs. Wong, Mr. Morales, other shop owners who had been angry with Matteo just days ago. Well, Mrs. Wong called out, are you going to open or not? Bella looked at her stand, at her waiting customers, at Matteo's hopeful face. I need help with the lunch rush, she said. Matteo's face lit up. I make a pretty good assistant. A terrible one, actually, Bella teased. But I'll keep training you. The crowd cheered. Bella tied her apron around her waist, and Matteo stood beside her, not too close, but close enough. As she turned on the grill, she started humming, a song she hadn't sung since before her parents died. Maybe, just maybe, trust could be rebuilt. Maybe second chances were real. 2 weeks had passed. The news had moved on, but the changes in town remained. The flower shop had a new fridge, the deli had a fixed roof, even Bella's house had a fresh coat of paint. But the biggest changes weren't ones people could see. "You're holding the tongs wrong again," Bella told Matteo at the stand one morning. "Sorry, boss," he grinned, fixing his grip. Bella shook her head, but she was smiling. Their customers were used to seeing them together now. Some even said the food tasted better because there was love in the air, though Bella always rolled her eyes at that. That morning, Bella seemed distracted, checking her phone often. "Everything okay?" Matteo asked. "Camila has an art show today, her first time showing her paintings, but I can't close early. We need the sales." "What time is the show?" 3 o'clock, but go, Matteo said, taking off his apron. "I'll handle the stand." "By yourself?" "I learned from the best." Bella hesitated, then grabbed her purse. "Call me if there's any problem, and don't." "I know. No extra sauce for Mr. Peterson, no dogs near the grill." Bella smiled, then quickly kissed his cheek. "Thank you, Danny." After she left, Matteo touched his cheek, grinning. He turned to the next customer, ready to prove he could do this. At 4 p.m., Marco stopped by. "Camila won first place. She painted the park with Bella's stand in it. Everyone loved it." "That's amazing." Matteo packed some skewers. "Take these. Celebrate on the house." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. Family deserves special treatment." Marco stopped when he heard the word family. "You really mean that?" he asked. Matteo smiled. "More than anything I've ever meant in my life." Marco nodded slowly. "Good, because I've never seen Nessa this happy. Not since Mom and Dad." "I know." Matteo put a hand on Marco's shoulder. "And I promise you, I'm not going anywhere." Later that evening, after closing the food stand, Matteo drove to Bella's house. Camila was outside, proudly showing a ribbon to Mrs. Wong. "Danny," she called out, "come see my painting." The painting showed Sunset Park on a busy day. In the middle was Bella's food stand with Matteo and Bella working together. Around them, people from the town were busy. Mrs. Wong was arranging flowers. Mr. Morales was making sandwiches. Kids were playing on the grass. "It's called Our Home," Camila explained. "See? I painted everyone who makes the park special." Matteo looked at the painting. His throat felt tight. He had almost ruined all of this, not just the buildings, but the people, the friendships, the family. "It's beautiful," he managed to say. "The school wants to hang it in the main hall," Bella said, standing next to him. "And guess what? The art teacher says Camila has real talent. She's talking about college scholarships." "Really?" Matteo turned to Camila. "That's amazing." "I couldn't have done it without you," Camila said quietly. "After you stopped the new buildings from being built, it made me believe in happy endings again." Inside, Marco had ordered pizza to celebrate. As they ate, Camila talked excitedly about art schools, and Marco shared news about his own college plans. "Danny," Bella said suddenly, "would you help me get drinks from the kitchen?" In the kitchen, Bella turned to face him. "I've been thinking." "Sounds serious." "It is." She took a deep breath. "The community fund is helping a lot of people, but some still need help with business stuff, permits, advice." "Okay, and you know about that. Real experience, not just money." Matteo waited, not daring to hope. "So I was thinking," Bella continued, "maybe you could start a small business consulting firm here in Millbrook. Help local shops grow, but keep them the way they are." "You want me to stay? Forever?" "Well, the kids like having you around, Satrat, and you're not so bad at the stand anymore. And," Bella stepped closer, "and I'm falling in love with you again, the real you this time." Matteo's heart raced, but he kept his voice steady. "Are you sure? After everything?" "You gave up everything to save our home. You work for minimum wage at a food stand. You remember Mrs. Wilson's dog and Mr. Peterson's blood pressure." She smiled. "If that's not real love, I don't know what is." Matteo pulled her into his arms. This time, she didn't pull away. Cheering came from the doorway. Marco and Camila had been watching. "Finally," Camila exclaimed. "Can we show him the surprise now?" "What surprise?" Matteo asked. Bella took his hand. "Come on." I hope this works for you. They led him upstairs to a small room. Inside was a desk, a computer, and a sign that read Kensington Community Business Services. The room's been empty since Dad died, Marco explained. We thought maybe you could use it as an office. Matteo looked at the room, then at the family watching him. Are you asking me to move in? Eventually, Bella said, if you want to. One step at a time. Besides, Camilla added, someone has to help me with my art school applications. And I could use business advice, Marco said. Matteo felt tears in his eyes. I don't deserve all this. Maybe not, Bella agreed. But love isn't about deserving, it's about choosing. And we choose you. That night, after the kids went to bed, Matteo and Bella sat on the porch swing together. This time, there was no distance between them. What do you think? Bella asked, ready to be part of a real family? Matteo looked at the house, its fresh paint, crooked shutter, and Camila's artwork in the windows. He thought about the food stand, the community that had forgiven him, the second chance he'd been given. I think, he said, pulling Bella closer, I'm finally home. Above them, the stars twinkled over Millbrook, watching over a family that had grown in unexpected ways, and a love that had survived betrayal to become something stronger, truer, and more beautiful than before. But just when things were finally peaceful, trouble arrived in a sleek black limousine. Matteo, darling, a familiar voice called. Gloria Torres, Matteo's mother, stood there in a fancy suit and pearls. She looked completely out of place in the park. Mother? Matteo nearly dropped the tongs he was holding. What are you doing here? Rescuing you, of course. She wrinkled her nose at the food stand. This little adventure of yours has gone on long enough. Bella stepped forward. You must be Mrs. Kensington. I'm Bella. Gloria barely glanced at her. Yes, the food vendor. Matteo, we need to talk. Alone. Anything you have to say, you can say in front of Bella, Matteo said firmly. Fine. Gloria pulled out some papers. The company board is willing to take you back. Full reinstatement as CEO if you sign these today. Matteo crossed his arms. What's the catch? Withdraw the community fund, return to New York, and end this. She waved a hand at Bella and the stand. Nonsense. No, Matteo's voice was strong. I'm not leaving. Gloria's polite smile faded. You're throwing away your father's legacy. For what? Some small-town romance? No, I'm building my own legacy, one I can be proud of. A small crowd had gathered watching. Mrs. Wong and Mr. Morales stood close by, protective. Think about what you're giving up, Gloria said. The penthouse, the yacht club, your place in society. I'm not giving up anything that matters. Gloria turned to Bella. How much do you want? Money? A settlement? Name your price to let my son go. Bella's face turned red. I don't want your money, Mrs. Kensington. I just want Danny to be happy. Gloria laughed coldly. Danny, my son is Matteo Torres III, CEO of... Not anymore, Matteo interrupted. I'm just Danny now, and I'm staying. Gloria's face hardened. Then you leave me no choice. She pulled out more papers. If you don't return to New York, I'll contest your father's will. You'll lose everything. The company, your personal fortune, the community fund. The crowd gasped. Bella grabbed Matteo's arm. Danny, you can't let that happen. The community needs that money. Gloria smiled. See, even she agrees you should sign. But Matteo was already shaking his head. No, Mother. Contest whatever you want. I have everything I need right here. Gloria's expression flickered. Was it loneliness? Regret? But she straightened. You have until tomorrow to change your mind. After that, the lawyers take over. Marco and Camilla peeked through the window, watching as Matteo put a ring on their sister Bella's finger. Do you think they know we're watching? Camilla whispered. Probably, Marco said with a smile. But they're too happy to care. Gloria walked up behind them. Should we go congratulate them? Not yet, Camilla said. Let them have this moment. On the porch, Matteo and Bella sat close together, watching fireflies glow in the evening air. I can't give you a fancy life, Bella said softly. I had a fancy life before, Matteo said, and it was empty. He kissed her forehead. This is better. This is real. A soft breeze carried the smell of Mrs. Wong's flowers and Mr. Morales's fresh bread. Down the street, kids played basketball, and their laughter filled the air. It was home. "The kids are going to be okay," Bella said, mostly to herself. "Of course they are," Mateo said. "They have your strength, your heart, and now they have you too." He touched the ring on her finger. Forever. The next morning, they opened their food stand like always, but something felt different. They had a lightness in their steps and a happiness they couldn't hide. "About time," Mrs. Wong called out when she saw Bella's ring. Soon the whole park knew. But it wasn't a surprise. Everyone had watched their love story grow day by day, skewer by skewer. "You know what this means," Mr. Morales said with a grin. "We're going to have the biggest wedding this park has ever seen." "Oh no," Bella protested. Something small, simple. But when she saw the joy on their neighbors' faces, she knew it was no use. In their town, family celebrations belonged to everyone. As they worked at the stand, stealing little glances and secret smiles, neither Mateo nor Bella could believe how far they had come. From a broken past to a stronger love, from two separate lives to one shared journey. "Happy?" Mateo asked, bumping Bella's hip playfully. "More than I ever thought possible," she said. And it was true, because sometimes the best love stories don't need fancy restaurants or expensive gifts. Sometimes they just need a food stand, a supportive community, and two hearts brave enough to try again. The ring sparkled in the sunlight as Bella worked. It wasn't as bright as her smile, but it was just as steady. Just like their love. Not flashy or perfect, but real and lasting. Despite Bella's wish for a small wedding, the whole town had other plans. Every morning, someone new came by with an idea or an offer to help. "My cousin's a DJ," a customer said. "He'll do the music for free." "I can make the cake," offered Mrs. Patel from the bakery. "Consider it my wedding gift." Even Mr. Morales started testing fancy appetizer recipes. "We can't just serve regular sandwiches at the biggest wedding in Millbrook," he declared. "Our wedding of the year," Bella groaned, resting her head on Mateo's shoulder. "They're excited," Mateo laughed, kissing her hair. "Let them be happy for us." But their peaceful morning was interrupted by an unexpected visitor. Andres, Mateo's younger brother. "So this is where you've been hiding," Andres said, looking around the park with a frown. "Mom said you were getting married, but I had to see it myself." Mateo's voice was cautious. "What are you doing here?" "Trying to save you from making a huge mistake," Andres said, pulling out his phone. "Have you seen the company's stock prices since you left? The shareholders are furious." "I don't care about stock prices." "Well, you should, because they're suing you." Bella grabbed Mateo's arm. "They can't do that, can they?" "They can try," Andres smirked. Unless what?" Mateo's eyes narrowed. "Come back. Just for a little while, help fix things. You can keep your little community fund. Keep playing small-town hero, but the company needs you." "No," Mateo said firmly. "I'm done with that life. Even if it means losing everything, the house, the money for Bella's siblings' college." Bella felt Mateo tense beside her. They had just put a down payment on a bigger house near the park, a gift from Gloria. "You're trying to manipulate me," Mateo said, "just like always." "I'm trying to help you," Andres shouted. "You think this life is enough? Cooking street food? Living in a tiny town where nothing happens? It's more than enough. It's everything." Just then, Camila ran up. "Danny, the contractor called about the house." Oh, she stopped when she saw Andres. "And you must be one of the charity cases," Andres said coldly. Mateo stepped forward, anger in his eyes. "Don't you dare talk about my family like that." "Family?" Andres laughed. "You've known these people for 6 months. Sometimes 6 months of real love is worth more than 30 years of greed." A crowd gathered because in Millbrook, an attack on one was an attack on all. "You should leave," Mrs. Wong said, holding her flower shears. "Before things get unpleasant," Mr. Morales added, cracking his knuckles. Andres scowled. "You're all crazy. This town is crazy." He turned to Mateo. When this blows up in your face, don't come crying to me. After Andres left, Mateo sank onto a bench. I'm sorry, he said to Bella. Hey, she said, taking his hand. We've faced worse, remember, and we did it together. Camila hugged them. Nobody messes with our family. That night, they held a family meeting. Gloria promised to handle the lawyers. You two focus on your happiness. Later, Mateo and Bella sat on their porch swing. Are you sure about this? Bella asked. More sure than I've ever been, Mateo said, squeezing her hand, because now I know what I'm fighting for. The next morning, the stand was decorated with flowers. A sign read, Future Home of Mr. and Mrs. Kensington's famous Skewers. Camila had sewn pretty little designs on the bottom of Bella's dress. If you looked very closely, you could see tiny pictures of food stands. You look so beautiful, Gloria said as she came in to help with Bella's hair, like a real-life fairy tale princess. Not a princess, Bella said with a smile. Just a girl who found love at a food stand. At the hotel, Mateo put on his suit. It wasn't from a fancy store, but it was nice and well made. Marco helped him with his tie. Are you ready to be a Carter now? Marco joked. I thought you were taking my name, Mateo teased back. Yeah, but we all know who really runs this family. Mateo laughed. That's true, and I wouldn't change a thing. As the guests arrived at the park, they saw something magical. Their usual gathering place looked so beautiful, but it still felt like home. There were simple decorations, delicious food, and most importantly, love. Because the best celebrations aren't about money or fancy things. They are about the people who love you. Every decoration, every dish, every little thing at this wedding was made with love. It wasn't just about Bella and Mateo. It was about their whole family and community coming together. The wedding was at Sunset Park. White chairs were placed where the food carts usually stood. Camila's painting was displayed near a flower-covered arch. The food stand was decorated with lights and flowers, ready for its special part in the day. Marco paced nervously. As the best man, he had a very important job. The rings? Mateo asked for the 10th time. Safe and sound, Marco promised, patting his pocket. Stop worrying about the rings and start worrying about your vows. Mateo touched the folded paper in his jacket. He had rewritten his vows many times, trying to find the right words. At home, Camila was helping Bella get ready. Something old, Camila said, handing Bella their mother's locket. Something new, Gloria added, giving her a pearl bracelet. Something borrowed, Mrs. Wong said, pinning a special flower in Bella's hair. Something blue, Elena, Marco's girlfriend, said, handing Bella a blue ribbon for her bouquet. Bella looked in the mirror. Her simple white dress seemed to glow. Camila had done her makeup just right, but it was Bella's smile that made her shine the most. Mom and Dad would be so happy, Camila whispered as she adjusted the dress. They are happy, Bella said softly. I can feel them here. The park was filled with guests. Neighbors, friends, and even some of Mateo's old business partners had come. They were dressed too fancy for the park, but they were happy for Mateo. Andres, Mateo's brother, didn't come, but he sent a card. Maybe I was wrong. Be happy, big brother. As it was time for the wedding to begin, Mr. Morales' son played a sweet love song on his guitar. Mateo stood under the arch, his heart pounding. Then he saw her. Everything else disappeared. Bella walked alone at first. Then Marco and Camila joined her, one on each side. They weren't giving her away. They were walking as a family, stepping into their future together. When they reached Mateo, both siblings hugged their sister, and then Mateo, too. Take care of each other, Marco said. We will, Mateo promised. The Mayor Rivera smiled at the crowd. We are here today not just to witness a wedding, she said, but to celebrate a love story that has touched our whole community. A story that shows us that sometimes taking the long way brings you to the right place. Bella spoke first. Her voice was strong and clear. Danny, 18 years ago, we were just kids with big dreams. Life took us different ways, but we found each other again. You came here as a businessman, but I fell in love with the man who made skewers, helped Marco with homework, and encouraged Camila's art. You chose us, and I choose you, every day, forever. Mateo's hands shook as he unfolded his paper, then he stopped. Instead, he looked into Bella's eyes and spoke from his heart. Bella, I spent years chasing success, never realizing I was running from happiness. Then I saw you again, laughing at the food stand, just like before. You showed me what real wealth is: family, love, and simple joys. You, Marco, and Camila taught me that sometimes the best things come with grilled skewers and a lot of heart. I promise to love you, support you, and cherish you forever. There wasn't a dry eye in the park. Mrs. Wong was crying into her flower basket. Mr. Morales pretended he had dust in his eye. Even Gloria wiped away a tear. The rings? The mayor asked. Marco stepped forward with 2 simple gold bands. No diamonds, no fancy engravings, just pure and true love. By the power vested in me, the mayor said, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. The park erupted in cheers. Mateo and Bella kissed, and flower petals filled the air. The guitar played a happy song, and the celebration began. Tables were set around the food stand, which was the heart of the party. Everyone had helped. Mrs. Patel baked the wedding cake. Mr. Morales made fancy appetizers. Mrs. Wong arranged the flowers. Even Gloria surprised everyone by learning to make perfect skewers. To the happy couple, Marco toasted. Proof that love is even better the second time around. To family, Camila added, the one you're born with and the one you choose. To community, Mrs. Hat Wong called out. And to the power of a good food stand, someone cheered. As the sun set, the park glowed golden. Mateo took Bella's hand and led her to the old oak tree where they used to meet in high school. Happy? He asked. More than I ever dreamed possible, Bella said. She looked at everyone celebrating, their family dancing, laughing, and enjoying the moment. Look what our love created. Mateo smiled mysteriously. I have a gift for you. He handed her some papers. What's this? The deed to the food stand. He pulled out more papers. And registration for Carter Kensington Family Foods. We can help other families start their own stands, make more success stories like ours. Bella's eyes filled with happy tears. A family business? If you want, Marco can help with business, Camila can do the art, and we can help people build their dreams. I love it, Bella said, hugging him. And I love you. As night fell, lights twinkled in the trees, people danced, children played, and love filled the park. Under the old oak tree where their story began, Bella and Mateo stood together, knowing this wasn't the end. It was a beautiful beginning. Thanks for watching. If you liked the story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Check out our other videos too. See you in the next one.